Hi, Sean here from the Trusted Agent Podcast, and thank you for joining us on today's show, where each week we talk to experts both inside the industry and outside the real estate industry to gain their unique perspectives on what they believe real estate agents can do to build their credibility, efficiencies, and connections with others. A huge shout out to our sponsor, Rezo Real Estate Sales Online, who's absolutely revolutionizing how real estate agents deal with prospective buyers and vendors. Their online platform that manages the offers and acceptance process is simple, easy to use, giving time back to the agents so they can do what they do best. All right, so stick with me and let's see who today's guest on the show is. Hi, everyone. Sean here from the Trusted Agent Podcast. And today I am being joined by Tom Hector from Harris Real Estate. How are you today, Tom?
Oh, very well. Thank you, Sean. Great to be here.
Excellent to have you along. Now, Tom is the property consultant, auctioneer, and partner within the business. And you've just celebrated, I think it's your 11 years in the business.
So coming up to nearly 12 years in business with Phil. So it's been a long journey. It's been a great journey, but a long journey. It's been really exciting. We've had great growth in the business and big things ahead in the next 5 or 10 years as well. So really enjoying my time here.
Great to hear. Great to hear. I can't wait to get down to Adelaide and have a visit of the office. Now, for some people who haven't met you, Tom, can you give us, our viewers and listeners, a bit of a flashback into where it all started for you? How did you get into the industry? Why did you get into the industry? And and your journey overall.
Yeah, so when I went to school, I went to a local private school about 10 k's from the CBD. The northeastern corridor of Adelaide. I competed in an auction idol program, so like a junior golden gavel competition whilst I was in year 12 at school. I was lucky enough to win that competition and then got offered a job at Toop and Toop Real Estate after that for 12 months. And I worked alongside my business partner at the time now, Phil. And at that 12-month period, I worked in all parts of the business. I worked in property management, I worked in sales, I worked at the front reception, but I soon worked out that sales was going to be for me. I absolutely love the thrill of the chase. For anyone that knows me personally, I love asking lots of questions. I was born to be a salesperson. I definitely was not the academic type. So I got into real estate and the rest is history now. So I've consistently sold anywhere from 100 and probably 30 to 180 properties now for about 7 or 8 years. large volumes of sales. My best year in real estate was going back a couple of years ago. That was 206 sales. We're going to get very close again in the next 12 months based upon the market conditions here. But I'm selling more mums and dads, average sale price of $680,000 in the northeastern corridor of Adelaide. And I'm definitely an auction advocate and love what I do. So I've got a good team around me. I've got good systems. And most importantly, this job of real estate has given me so much and it's going to give me so much more in the next 5 or 10 years as well.
That's awesome. Tell me more about the Golden Gavel competition. So that was done in school?
Yeah, so it's called Auction Idol. It still runs. It runs about with about 25 students every year across South Australia. And yeah, it was the second year running back in 2008 when I was in year 12. So I graduated school in 2008. I'm 30 this year. And out of 25 students, I won that competition. And then obviously I got headhunted by Toop and Toop at the time. And soon worked out that I was actually going to be a good real estate agent because I thought I had the basic skills, and I loved that you were your own boss. You could dictate what you earn. So the harder you work, the luckier you get. So the best thing about this business is it's a very flexible life. So I've never ever obviously worked for somebody. Working for myself has been fantastic. I love it.
30 years old and selling over 200 houses in your best year. That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Oh.
And a partner within Harris Real Estate as well. Not many people can, probably even conceive that. You probably see a lot of agents, entering the industry and they expect that from day one, but it took you a bit of a time to get there. What would you say were some of the key strengths or tactics that you use to help you guide to the success?
Yeah, so real estate is very similar to professional sport. So I was a solid tennis player. I was never a great tennis player, but I followed obviously the likes of Leighton Hewitt when I was growing up as a child. I had Pat Rafter, who was an idol of mine.
Amazing.
Agassi. And I obviously watched these human beings and watched these athletes compete at a young age. And I was obviously right into my tennis up until about the age of 17. And I soon worked out that real estate is very similar to professional sport. It's the more you put in, the more you get out. And as you can probably appreciate, the reason a salesperson or a real estate agent never survives or never succeeds is there's basically one line that sums up real estate. There is too much free time. And there's too much free time suggesting that no one's going to tell you what to do. They can tell you what to do, but at the end of the day, you have to want to do it yourself.
Hmm.
Always use the analogy in life is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make that horse drink. So real estate's very much you get out what you put in. So in my first 2, 3, 4 years, it was all about the output. The more output I was doing, the more I was building my name, building my established name. It was then going to provide myself a personal brand in that northeastern corridor. And then all of a sudden it took off because of all the people I'd spoken to over a long period of time and just obviously doing the right thing by people.
Your reputation, when I've asked people about you, because we haven't met before this podcast, but there's a word that was being used quite a bit was tenacious. You know, you have this tenacious approach in following up, in particular with new business, you're always on the hunt. Where did that come from?
Yeah, my dad, it's interesting. My dad worked for Westpac for 32 years and was very, very good. Started as a bank teller and then worked up to be a relationship manager. And I've got very similar traits to my dad. We're very hardworking. We were all, when I was growing up as a child, always dad would go on holidays, but it was never be a holiday because he'd be always on the phone talking to clients. I think that's where I got my analogy in life from, is that I was never born on planet Earth to be mediocre. I was never born on planet Earth to be second best. I'm very competitive. And I'm very hard on myself. I'm a perfectionist. So I love what I do, but at the same time, I'm always striving to do bigger and better things. But for me now, it's obviously more working smarter, not harder, because I've got people around me and I've got obviously systems and procedures in place to allow me to have a much more level and balanced life compared with the first 2 to 3 years when it's all about just getting the wheels in motion. And that's when it's very, very difficult. And that's when 95% of real estate agents actually say it's all too difficult and they throw the towel in.
Yeah, and really that's just setting up the foundations for success.
Exactly.
How big is your team now?
Yeah, I've got 3 staff members plus myself, so it works very, very effectively.
Wow.
Everyone's got their key roles. Everyone's got a clear job description. Everyone understands what their roles are. So it's a matter about just making sure we do the daily rituals and daily habits and daily patterns every day, and that's going to drive our success with our business.
The first couple of years in building that foundation and those 2 to 3, a lot of cold calling or setting up that pipeline. What was your approach?
A lot of door knocking and cold calling. Yeah. So I focused on one particular suburb called Ross Trevor. That was because I'd born and bred there all my life. And I knew everyone in that area from a young age. So I didn't have a credibility at that point in time, but it was all about becoming the absolute product knowledge king. So the reason people engaged me to sell their home in Ross Trevor was because I knew the area better than anybody. And I could definitely work towards making sure that I would be able to get them a better price and a better outcome because I could talk about the local amenities and what that home not just had to offer, but what the local schools were like, what the local streets were like, what the local tennis clubs were like, all of those factors.
And I guess with that, because of that localized knowledge and you being able to speak to it so well, people just, believed you and helped establish that credibility and trust because of your area of knowledge.
Definitely. So I think the key to real estate and key to success in sales in any job is becoming a trusted advisor. But the way I look at it right now is that in real estate or in selling anything in life, the more contacts, the more people you're in contact with over a period of time, frequency builds trust. So for me now, my database, I might have been speaking to someone for 8, 10, 15 times. So when it comes time to want to sell their house, it's a lot easier to list their property because they actually know me, they like me, they trust me. Whereas if you're starting out in real estate, no one knows you, no one trusts you. You haven't got a track record, it's very difficult.
Absolutely. In talking with some agents, they struggle to find things to talk about. I mean, I know that sounds bizarre, but they're not sure what to talk about. So they resort into, oh, here's the property I just sold. And they do that 8 to 10 to 15 times. What are some of the things that you do to try to keep that conversation fresh, but also let them build that bond?
Yeah, so just listed call, just sold call, but making sure it's relevant to their property, their land size, talking to them about making sure I've got detailed notes. So talking about their kids, their dogs' names, what they like to do outside of work. So all of these factors, making sure that I'm very personal and asking the right questions, but being very concise and obviously brief on the phone, because it's all about getting to a point very quickly rather than just blabbling on, which some salespeople do. So I'm very clear and concise with my dialogue. And again, that's one thing I did focus on in my first 2 or 3 years is everyone in their life has got skills, right? So a plumber, an electrician, they've got a van, they've got their tools. We've got our mouths. So everything that comes out of our mouth, we're wordsmiths. So that's what we have to critique and find. So like athletes, they've got their skills based upon their ability to perform at a high level, whether it be a footballer kicking a drop punt, whether it's a tennis player doing a forehand or a volley. But for us, we've got our words. So it's very important that the words that come out of our mouth, we have to say the right things. And we're persuasive. That's what we are. So we're professional salespeople, but not enough people take this business professionally.
When it comes to persuasion, I've talked with some people and they point to mentors that help them, or they've taken on studies and behavioral sciences and so forth. Well, how have you adapted your persuasive skills?
I've studied a lot of good salespeople around the country. So people I look up to within Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, in Adelaide, etc. I've obviously listened to a lot of audio. So the key dialogue, so a weekend callback, a listing presentation, an auction. So understanding all those fundamentals and then basically putting your own spin on it. So when I was 18, I used to have a dictaphone. The iPhones had just come out then. And I used to listen to myself and talk to myself and do listing presentations to myself. Now, you might think it's corny, but one thing in life is success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. So the days of Leighton Hill when he grew up as a child, he hit balls every morning at 7 o'clock before school, right? Success leaves clue. That's why he was number one in the world. So you don't get to where you are without hard work and discipline.
Yeah, I wasn't laughing because I thought it was corny. I used to do the same thing in sales. When I was in a new industry or new product or new company, I just practice and record myself. And it's so much time on the road and just listen over and over again going, yeah, that sucked. That sucked. That was good. Where did I come up with that? And just write that down. No, that's excellent. Thank you. What are some of the challenges or concerns you have when you look out in the industry and some of the agents out there where they're not quite getting it right?
So the biggest problem we face now is in the industry of Adelaide. Obviously, it's very, very over-serviced. We've got too many real estate agents. It's probably like that in every state, but in particular Adelaide with our population. So as you can probably appreciate, the fee problem here in South Australia is a big one. So fees keep getting lower and lower and lower. So if people actually stuck to their ground on fees rather than just chasing the bottom dollar, that's what something the industry faces consistently is that so the reason you obviously have to prospect and work with so many people is because to get a better fee, to get a better quality of a listing, because at the end of the day, if you don't have an established relationship with that client, you're always going to come down to a very cheap commission based upon you not knowing you or liking you or trusting you.
Yeah. And for our listeners and viewers that are looking to establish greater credibility or organizational tips or building stronger connections with others, can you offer any tips to those agents?
Yeah, absolutely. The most important factor is getting a world-class database. So making sure you've got a really good CRM platform. So we use a program called Agent Box. There's other programs called Box and Dice. There's a number of different platforms in the real estate industry. But we obviously put that data into that database, and that obviously gives us an activity schedule to work from every single day. And that builds frequency, it builds trust based upon the relationships you discuss with those potential clients. And that's what it's all about.
How often do you catch up with your team?
Every morning at 8 o'clock. So we meet at 8 o'clock every morning. So we've got massive discipline around our daily meeting rhythms. So 8 o'clock, we check in with each other at 2 o'clock. And that's how we know each other so well, because we work towards our outcomes and we review everyone's day, the previous day, review the week ahead, review the weekend ahead. It's very, very, very systemized. And one thing in life that I heard on an audio when I first started this business is systems equals leverage, leverage equals control. And it's so true. Because the better the systems you have, the more leverage you can have. The more leverage you can have, the more control you've got on your whole entire life. So I use that analogy in everything in my life.
I love that. We talked to Ewan Morton. He was driving systems and process so down the line. I wish I heard that one beforehand. No, he'll be stealing that. So that's great. Okay, so we talked about with potential vendors and keeping the consistency and that cadence and make sure it's relevant to what they're looking for, and buyers too, I imagine.
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. And just being obviously an honest person, unfortunately, in whether it's selling cars, whether it's selling houses, there's too many sharks out there in business. So like you mentioned to me before about personal brand, all I care about now in Adelaide is that I'm not going to please everyone. I can't please everyone in the industry, but I just don't want to get a bad name for myself about doing the wrong thing by somebody based upon my behavior and based on what I've said to that particular client. So my personal brand is very, 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 what's the word? I take it very seriously here in Adelaide because it's a long game. And I know Adelaide's a very small place. People talk very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think protecting your personal brand and not going for the cheapest dollar or cutting corners is so important in the industry. With there's a question I had around people racing to the bottom in terms of their fees. Do you go the other way? Like what other ways are you bringing value to your potential vendors and the buyers as well? Are you trying to set yourself apart of that? It's like, we're not a less than 1%er. We're the 1% of excellence.
A dialogue around that is, I'm not going to be the cheapest agent you speak to, nor am I going to be the most expensive agent I'm going to speak to. We're somewhere in the middle, and we're seen as very good value based upon my track record of selling over 100 homes in the last 12 months. For us to work together, our fee is 2% plus GST of 2.2%. Now, at the end of the day, everything's up for negotiation, but at the same time, though, I definitely protect my fee based upon my track record and recent results, because obviously the results speak for themselves, and raving fans for my clients. So that's what's very important to me, because the more results you become, the more people trust you to want to work with you again.
I was just thinking about how many homes you must have sold in coming up to 12 years in the last time. Do you have the number off the top of your head, or is it just gone too much?
Yeah, over 1,000.
It's over 1,000, isn't it? That's wonderful. I think it's important that you know who you are for, and that you're not going to be for everyone. So many agents have this fear of missing out, and they have to get every single one. But sometimes some vendors are just, you know what, I'm not for you.
And personality clashes. The more I look at this business now, is that I don't relate to everyone. Like, I don't relate to people that may want to sit with me for 4 or 5 hours and talk about other things. Like, if you work with Tom, you get a clear, concise plan. We'll have fun along the way, but I'm here to get you an outcome. I'm not here to just talk about anything and everything, right? So my demographic, that's why I've always worked in that middle to upper end of the market here in Adelaide. I haven't worked in the complete top end. I want to get there one day, but it's a slow pattern, and I'll get there, right? But at the same time, the demographic of people I work with are just mums and dads. They're great people. They trust me. We work well together, and I get them great results.
I love the this will probably be our fastest interview ever, Tom, because you are so clear and concise. So I think the number one tip you give for any agents is that just consistency, and to be clear and concise.
And also mindset's a big one as well. Like, the setbacks in sales, not just in real estate, but in anything in life, is that you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get consistently no's. And the thing about not just real estate, but any kind of sales role, is that you're going to have people that will pull out of deals. Like, you'll have people that will abuse you. You'll cop complaints. You can't please everyone, but it's about how you deal with that on a daily basis, and what's your strategy around how do I pick myself up when you get kicked in the guts, and you make rejection your best friend. One of my first coaches in real estate said, make rejection your best friend, because in sales, rejection is why we get paid so much money. It's not for the faint-hearted. There's very few people in life. I've got a lot of people that are accountants and lawyers and doctors. They could never do what we do, because I could never do what they do. But rejection's tough. And even though 12 years of business, I still get rejected all the time, and it still plays on my mind. But I can get over it a lot quicker compared with when I first started in the first couple of years, because I take it personally. Now it's just business.
Absolutely. I was about to say that I was the same in the beginning. You just don't take it personally. It's just not right time, not place, or you didn't sell in the right way. It's always tomorrow. What are some of the ways that you, if you've had a bad day, that you just unwind or do a reset for yourself when it comes to mindset?
I've got a really good walking trail around my house. So when I come home at night, I'll make sure I go for a very slow walk. I'll put my phone down, we'll leave my phone at home and just reflect and just think about the next week, the next 3 weeks, and just know that I've got a business now that I'll always have a career in real estate based upon my personal brand, based upon what I've done for so many clients over a long period of time. There might be stages where there's going to be rocky roads. There's going to be 1 month bad, 1 month good, but I know that I'll ride the cycle out. But it's a matter of just understanding that everything will be okay. Whereas in the first couple of years, there was so much anxiety about wanting to make it in real estate and didn't know if I was going to make it. Now it's just a fact of doing business. Now, I lost a piece of business this morning. It was a big listing. I thought I had it. Second appointment, I missed it. But you know what? Now it's move on. Whereas about 5-7 years ago, I would have mulled on that. I've already moved on 10 minutes after that phone call.
Yeah, it's a real skill. Great. I'm glad to hear that you actually take a slow walk. I think it's the only time I'll ever hear Tom Hector and slow in the same sentence.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you've got to do that though. You've got to have time out for yourself. And that's one thing I've noticed as well. Like Sundays for me now, like yesterday, relaxing day, chilling out, enjoying some sunshine, keeping my head clear, making sure that you've got your A game ready for 5.5, 6 days a week at work. Because at the end of the day, burnout is something that so many people have had in real estate because you're always on. The problem with real estate, you're always on.
What do you do to chill out on a Sunday? Are you, do you still play tennis or?
Barbecue with friends. So it was great fun. My closest friends from school, we're 13 years out now of school. And we've still got about 10 of our closest friends. So just discussing it. I love hiking. I love exercising. I love laying in the sun. I love going out for long lunches, all of those simple things in life. Yep, love watching sport as well. Massive into my sport. So Adelaide Crows fan.
Go the Crows.
Tennis intimately. So yeah.
Next year, let's hope a bit better up, higher up on the ladder, eh?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But, yeah, I love following the current affairs in the world. I love what's going on. I love traveling as well. Obviously, with COVID, it hasn't happened, but there was a stage before that where I used to travel a lot. So yeah, I'm very blessed to what I've achieved at 30 years of age. Very, very blessed.
Absolutely, but it's come with hard work and you deserve it. 2 last questions for you. Where is your favorite destination to travel and where are you off to next?
Oh, this is a tough one, but I have been to Hawaii once, going back 3 years ago. I'm obsessed with the sun. I would love to go back there in the next couple of years. I hear it's on the radar of being opened up shortly. That's probably I just absolutely love the sun and good weather. I love snorkeling. I love beaches. I love good food as well. And Hawaii gave me that. I have been to the Bahamas as well. That was unbelievable a couple of years ago. That was a place I'd love to go back to and do some more of, especially some of the smaller islands in the Bahamas. And what was the other part of the question, Sean?
Where are you going to next?
Good question. I'm hoping to go to the States next year. My friend's getting married, a school friend's getting married in the States in California. But everything's up in the air, to be honest with you.
Tom, thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure, mate. Thanks for the invitation today, and I appreciate you having me around.
No worries, Tom. For our watchers and viewers today, thank you so much for joining us on this one. Tom, thank you so much for being a guest on the Trusted Agent podcast, and we hope to see you again on our next episode. All the best. Bye.